284 pairs, that's the number of sister provinces, states, or sister cities established between China and the United States since diplomatic ties were established in 1979. More than 4 decades have passed. How alive and kicking is that spirit? I came to Long Beach, Los Angeles, a sister city with Qingdao in East China's Shandong province. The two cities have been paired since 1985. How has Long Beach benefited? How has that link been maintained, especially during the past few tumultuous years? What potential is there to further tap into? I talked to Dr. Mary Barton, President Emerita of the Long Beach-Qingdao Association, who has dedicated the past 30 years in doing just that. Dr. Barton, thank you very much for accepting our interview. Tell us a bit about this friendship, sister city relationship between Long Beach in California and Qingdao in eastern China. How long does the story go back?
Well, it goes back to 1985, and some of our city fathers went to Qingdao and realized that we had a lot in common, and they came back and recommended that we become sisters, and so we did, and we've maintained a very close and collaborative relationship ever since, for 35 years or more.
Wow. Is that the longest relationship of sister cities between U.S. and China? Do you have any idea, like, you know, in terms of...
I would say it's probably one of the longest. In Long Beach, we also have a Japanese sister city, which is celebrating 60 years.
Okay.
So we have a long way to go yet, and we hope we will continue to be good sisters for that many years.
What has happened over the past 40 years?
Oh my, many exchanges. And exchanges of people, exchanges of students, exchanges of gifts. And part of the reason we're here is because we have nearby some beautiful statues of lions from Qingdao that were a gift for us on our 10th anniversary. And at the same time, we sent over an ambulance to Qingdao as a token of our 10-year anniversary.
But why Qingdao?
I would say the biggest reason was the port. And at the time they were established, the friendship cities, or the sister cities, we both had a very large Navy presence and a very large commercial port presence. And since that time, Long Beach has lost its Navy presence, but we've expanded the commercial port, as has Qingdao. Qingdao, of course, is one of the largest ports in China.
What has this 40 years of sister relationship with the Chinese city meant for the people in the city of Long Beach?
I would say it has meant a chance to learn a little bit about Qingdao and China and the Chinese culture. Now, not many of them, of course, get to travel to Qingdao, but some of them do, and we help support that by funding trips and guiding trips over there. But also we have events here in town during the year where we give them a taste of Chinese culture, like Chinese New Year. And so from the littlest children to the adults, they get a taste of China.
Why is that important? Why do you think that the city continues to want to maintain and even continue to foster this relationship in today's world?
Sure. In today's world, it's very important, we believe, that people understand the people of the other country. And so sister cities very much relies on people-to-people relationships. So we try to help people understand not the politics, not what's going on necessarily in Beijing and Washington, but how do people live? What do they want out of their lives? And it turns out we have a lot in common.
Can you give a concrete example or a story or one experience that the city that you have witnessed that happened to the people or the city of Long Beach that, you know, did exactly just what you just described?
Sure, I'd be happy to. About almost 10 years ago now, we invited a dance troupe to come to Qingdao. From the Qingdao...
To come to Long Beach, you mean?
To come to Long Beach, yes. And it turns out it's an art school, so the children are trained in dance and other arts, and we arranged homestays for them. Now, some of their parents came along with them, but they allowed their children to go stay in the American homes. I personally had at least 2 children at that had that visit, and they were maybe 7 and 9 years old, and they had very little English, but they were good friends to each other, and by the time of the visit was over, we were good friends with them. We had to learn to use Google Translate. We brought in some Barbie dolls so they could play with those.
Yeah.
But we had breakfast, lunch, and dinner together every day, and I think that they got a sense that our home was a safe place for them to be and that they could enjoy. And every other household, there were probably 20 households that did that. So we really got to know them as people.
It has been a difficult period of time for a couple of reasons. First, the political atmosphere was very bad, and then the pandemic, where a lot of things were said about Asians, even about Chinese specifically. Did your sistership relationship suffer because of that?
Well, thanks to Zoom, we've been in touch all throughout the pandemic, and that has been a tremendous help, I would say. And of course, we couldn't go physically there, nor could they come here. And in that sense, I guess you could say it suffered a little bit. But honestly, it was kind of a guiding light that we still had Zoom, we could still communicate. And so we started what we call a digital pen pal program for college students. We had all set to send college students there, and then the pandemic came. So we just changed it to digital pen pals, and we worked to pair students with like students at Qingdao Technical University or University of Technology. And for a 3-month period, they picked up our topics and they exchanged emails and so forth about them, and so they made new friends, even during the pandemic.
Yeah. What is the potential, though, you see in people-to-people exchanges between the two sides? A lot of rhetoric, a lot of talk about, what China really is, competing. In the past it was engagement, or I don't know, G2, and now it's competing, rival. A lot of people talk about threat. How do you look at that and the potential in people-to-people, or the resilience that we can get from people-to-people relationship?
Well, to me, the greatest hope for that sort of thing is with the youth, so like college students. If they learn at that tender age that the people in China are really pretty much like the people here and have the same goals and hopes, I think that by the time they are in leadership positions, they will be able to take that understanding and make more chance of peace, prosperity for everybody, and understanding. Now, of course, that's a hope. We don't know exactly, but if we don't do that, how will they be when they're 40 years old and they start to get into a leadership position and all they know is what they read in the news? It's just not safe. We need people to know more than what they can get out of the news.
Yeah. So are you bringing young people from Long Beach to Qingdao, for instance, or other parts of China?
As a matter of fact, in January, we're sending 10 university students to Qingdao. And they will stay at the university there, Qingdao University of Technology, and they will learn about what it's like to be a college student in Qingdao.
Looking ahead, now that we've moved out of a very bad period of time in bilateral relations, looking ahead, what do you think are some of the things we need to keep in mind if we're not going to repeat, the same kind of mistake? For either side, I'm sure you think about it all the time.
Well, I do, and it's certainly a thorny issue. I hope that the leaders on both sides will take a long-term view and not be so concerned about their own power base that they feel they need to protect, that they will look at the future of the world and the implications when two major powers are somewhat at each other's throats, perhaps, that's just not good for their own children, their own grandchildren, and for the rest of the world.
So our program are broadcast to the world, okay? But also some of it can go out to the Chinese audience. What kind of messages do you want to send to the Chinese audience who have also grown, let's say, into a combination of confusion, shock, frustration, hopefulness, but also skepticism about America? That all of a sudden America sees us as an enemy, at least from what's being said in the news. What would be your message to the Chinese people if you have that opportunity?
Well, I would have to say that The typical American person is not at all interested in a fight. Not at all. We would much prefer to be commercial partners, to be friends, to learn about each other, and not to, win at all costs. Absolutely not. So take hope in that and don't believe all the bad things you may hear in the news.
To the American public, because you have been to China more than a dozen times over the past 35, you've seen the whole transformation. What would you say to the people who are jogging here in Long Beach?
Almost the same. The people in China are not on a day-to-day basis interested in conquering America or conquering some other country. They want to get by with a nice life for their children. They don't want to spend their time fighting or sending their children off to the army. No.
But some people are saying, look, China is catching up. China will overtake us. If you look at trade, China is really doing not bad. Mm-hmm. So there are people having this fear that, we're going to be overtaken by China. We will lose the status of the world's only superpower. Do you think about that? I mean, what would you say to that kind of question?
That's a really big question. My own personal thought is that being a world superpower takes a lot of responsibility, and maybe we don't want to be the world superpower anymore, but we do want peace, and we do want to have the opportunity to learn and know about other people. And if we're fighting each other, we won't do that. So, of course, China has 3 times more people than we do. Of course, there's a possibility that by some measures, they will outpace us. But when you look at the lifestyle of the individuals, the GDP per person, we're still not to the point where
there's
China
a big difference. Yes,
is going to overtake us. So I think we should be more concerned with making the pie bigger for everybody instead of wanting all the pie pieces for ourselves.
Some people would say you're an idealist.
Yes.
Do you hold on to that, knowing that your expectations could be considered too rosy?
Yes, of course. Pollyanna-ish is the word we use here, Pollyanna. But if we give up hope, then what do we have left? It's really important that we have some hope through whatever troubles we're going through.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mary Barton.
Oh, you're most welcome.